All right, so Capital One just announced some big changes to the Venture X card in terms of its airport lounge access policies. You've probably seen a bunch of bloggers and YouTubers talking about this over the past few days with all this negative stuff going on, but it might not be all bad news, and there are some positive outlooks for this as well. So I figured I would share my thoughts and opinions here in this video, and we're gonna do this in a very unscripted and kind of natural sort of conversational way. I wanna make more videos like this, so if that sounds good to you, make sure to stick around and go ahead and subscribe down below, and let's get right into it. All right, so right here is gonna be the email Capital One sent out to Venture X cardholders, and it says Capital One is dedicated to delivering a best-in-class airport lounge experience for our Venture X customers. As our lounges have grown in popularity, customers have increasingly encountered wait times in order to enter them. And I've experienced this myself, so my wife is gonna be the primary account holder on our Venture X and our two-player setup, and then I'm just an additional card holder. But last time we went to a Venture X or Capital One lounge with our Venture X was out in Denver last year, where we both were able to go. We were able to bring in my parents and my sister as guests as well, because there's also a bunch of guest privileges that you get right now that's also gonna be going away, and we'll get to that later on. And we had to wait like 5 minutes or so, and then we were able to get in eventually. It wasn't that long of a wait, but I know some people have experienced much longer waits, and when you're paying $395 per year for the Venture X, obviously you don't want to have to deal with waiting in line for one of the main features of having that credit card in the first place. Now, back over to the email, it says, in order to address this, we are making lounge access changes for additional cardholders, including authorized users and account managers and guests. As the Venture X primary cardholder, you will continue to receive complimentary access to Capital One lounges, Capital One landings, and Priority Pass lounges. So as the primary account holder with my wife here, there's no changes that affect her directly, but it is going to affect me as an additional card holder. And then below that here, you can actually see some of these changes where it says additional cardholder access changes. So beginning February 1st, 2026, so that's pretty far out into the future, additional cardholders on Venture X accounts will not automatically have airport lounge access. So that's the one big thing that's changing. It's the main reason why she added me as an additional cardholder, because for no annual fee, I could be added as an authorized user and get the same airport lounge access that the primary account holder has. That's the way it's been, and now that is going to be going away here. So I'm not going to have automatic airport lounge access anymore as an additional cardholder. Primary cardholders can pay an additional lounge access fee of $125 per additional cardholder to maintain their lounge access. So that is an option, and this is gonna grant additional cardholders access to Capital One lounges, Capital One landings, and Priority Pass lounges. So instead of having no annual fee for the additional cardholder, you could pay an optional $125 that gets you the same lounge access that additional cardholders had before. Now, if you don't want that lounge access, the good news is you can still keep or add additional cardholders without lounge access for no fee. So even as an additional cardholder right now, we're probably not going to take advantage of this just because we don't visit Capital One lounges that often. We're not going to pay $125 per year on top of our $395 annual fee on the Venture X, but we'll still just have my Venture X additional card as an additional account as an authorized user for no annual fee and no lounge access, but I can still earn 2x miles per dollar and everything. And then it also says here, if you wish to add lounge access for your additional cardholders, you'll have the option to do that beginning February 1st, 2026. So again, I'm filming this video here at the beginning of June in 2025. So there's quite a bit of time that has to pass before these changes go into effect. So I do still have lounge access for now, but I will have that option to potentially upgrade to that lounge access ability on February 1st of 2026. Now, in terms of guest access changes, there's a couple of things to note here below that for both Priority Pass and Capital One lounges and landings. So let's talk about Capital One first. Beginning February 1st, 2026, guests of Venture X cardholders will no longer automatically receive complimentary access to Capital One lounges and landings. So what that's saying is that with my additional card aside, let's say that I was traveling with my wife, who's the primary account holder. Even if I did not have my additional card, she still could bring me right now as an additional guest when visiting the lounge. So she gets automatic lounge access. She could bring me as a free guest because you can bring up to 2 free guests with the way that it works right now. But once these changes go into effect, the free guest access, that goes away as well for her as the primary account holder. And they say over here in the email, primary account holders and additional card holders that are eligible can spend at least $75,000 across the Venture X account per calendar year, and then you can bring up to 2 free guests to kind of re-unlock that feature. So now there is going to be a spend component that's required to unlock the 2 free guest visits when you're traveling with a primary Venture X cardholder. That $75,000 limit or minimum spend amount to unlock this is obviously not going to be worth it for us. It's not going to be worth it for many people out there. But maybe some people will come across that depending on what their level of spend is. But for most people, this is going to be this roadblock that now prevents guests from accessing the Capital One lounges. They do say below this, though, that primary Venture X cardholders and eligible additional cardholders, again, if you're paying that $125 in annual fees extra to access that as an additional cardholder, you can continue to receive a discounted pricing of $45 per guest per visit, and now receive a discounted rate of $25 per visit for guests 17 and under. So that $45 rate, that's kind of notable for us here, where if I was traveling with my wife and we wanted to visit a Capital One lounge, which typically we do about maybe once per year, we could visit the lounge and then just opt to pay $45. And if you kind of run the numbers here, if you visit the Capital One lounge, or you're going to visit Capital One lounges 3 or more times per year, then it's going to be worth it to lock in and just pay $125 for the unlimited additional card access. But if she's just going to bring me as a guest maybe once or twice per year and we want to pay that $45 fee per visit, we could do that. You kind of raise the question though, is that even worth paying $45 for? To me, not really. I'd rather just honestly go get to the airport later and go sit by the gate or try to visit some other lounge instead. Now, in terms of priority pass for guest lounge access, it says here, beginning February 1st, 2026, guests of Venture X cardholders will no longer receive complimentary access to priority pass lounges. At that time, Venture X primary cardholders and additional cardholders that are eligible can bring guests to priority pass lounges at a rate of $35 each per visit. And there's a whole chart over on Capital One's website, so I want to jump over there next to kind of show you some of these differences of before and after these changes. So again, over here on Capital One's website with this chart, they explain these changes. So for priority pass, before any of these changes go into effect, complimentary access to priority pass for both the primary and additional cardholders, along with complimentary guest access. And now after these changes, only the primary account holder is going to get the free priority pass access. If you're an additional cardholder, you have to pay $125 for that lounge access fee to then get access to the priority pass lounges in addition to the Capital One lounges. And then if you want to bring any guests, you could pay a rate of $35 per guest per visit to bring them into the priority pass lounges. So this is obviously a huge disappointment for some people out there who would have been traveling with multiple people, not just to Capital One lounges, but maybe for traveling somewhere else in the world where priority pass lounges are pretty good. You know, you can get some decent free guest access through just having this Venture X card. And you know, adding maybe an additional card holder or a few additional card holders because there's no annual fee to do that. So a lot of people were really bringing a lot of guests into not only Capital One lounges, but also priority pass lounges. So definitely go ahead and check out this full page we'll link to down below on Capital One's website that explains these changes, because it definitely is going to be a significant amount of changes going on for a lot of people who are using this card. So I want to go over exactly who's going to be the winners and who's going to be the losers with these changes and why it's bad, but also not so bad. So in terms of winners after these changes go into effect, I'm going to say that solo travelers are really going to be the winners here, because you probably don't care about having additional card holders or, you know, bringing guests in or having additional priority pass access for your guests or things like that. But if you're just traveling on your own with the Venture X card, you don't want to have to deal with waiting in these long lines for the Capital One lounges, especially if you're somebody who is based in one of these cities where these lounges currently exist. You know, if you fly out of DFW a lot, Washington, Dulles, Denver, any of those airports, chances are there's a lot of Venture X cardholders there who have been really getting frustrated with the wait times to get into those lounges lately. And so now that's going to hopefully get a little bit better as time goes on. In terms of losers after these Venture X changes, that's going to be mostly couples and families who have kind of been taking advantage of all these different ways to get lounge access benefits for no additional cost by just having one primary Venture X cardholder. So I know some people maybe have the Venture X and then they add their parents as additional cardholders. So they have priority pass access for no extra cost. That now goes away and you have to pay $125 per year to give each person the ability to have that priority pass access. A lot of people will also travel with friends and family for big group trips and then, you know, have multiple additional card holders, and then each is able to bring some guests into priority pass lounges or Capital One lounges. And Capital One is really focusing in on that stuff right now and trying to eliminate overcrowding, which is a big problem in airport lounges in general. And so they're cutting back on that by adding all these financial roadblocks in terms of the fees and things like that. For me and my own setup with my wife, like I've been saying, she's the primary account holder on the additional card. So I had lounge access to the Capital One lounges, and that now goes away, and I'm not going to be paying $125 per year or $45 per visit. I'd rather just go wait at the gate or try to find another airport lounge in that airport instead. So overall, my thoughts and opinions with these changes to the Venture X and the overall direction that this card is heading is going to be this. Basically, I'm not too upset about these changes. It doesn't affect me too much personally, given that I only visit Capital One lounges maybe once per year, if that. So it's not too big of a personal change for me. I'm actually glad they decided to just not add an annual fee to the additional card holders, but instead they just said, hey, if you want airport lounge access, cool, pay us $125 and then you're good to go there, or pay us on a per lounge visit basis. Obviously, if you're a large family or somebody who's kind of working the system with many family members, additional card holders, or traveling in a big group with guest access to these lounges, it's going to impact you and you're not going to be too happy about it. But I will say that this was something that a lot of people probably predicted was going to happen at some point, just because the airport lounge access was so overpowered for so long since the card launched back in late 2021. People kind of said, yeah, there's some workarounds here that I'm sure are eventually going to get devalued. So I'm surprised it took this long to eventually actually go ahead and devalue this airport lounge access benefit. But again, really cool to see they did not increase the annual fee here, because $395 for an annual fee with the 10,000 mile anniversary bonus worth $100 at a minimum, plus the $300 travel credit. That essentially completely offsets that annual fee and then allows all the other features and multipliers, 2x miles per dollar on everything, 10x on hotels and car rentals, or 5x on flights through Capital One Travel, along with the airport lounge access and a bunch of other good stuff. All those other benefits are essentially pure value profit after you wipe out that annual fee with those two benefits, with the anniversary bonus and the travel credit you get every year on this card. So that's nice to see that it's still an easy card to justify. But I will say I wish Capital One was a little bit more easygoing in their underwriting approval process, because I've been denied twice for this card and I have a great credit score. I've never been denied for any other card, but they just keep telling me I have too many active credit card accounts, and that's the message that a lot of other people get when trying to get approved for this card as well. So more than anything, I think these changes here are going to address the overcrowding issue, which people are happy about. People will get over the fact that there's no longer this workaround, and sure, it is a devaluation, but it's not nearly as much of a nerf as it could have been with an annual fee increase or something like that. So I'm not too mad about these changes. I don't think most people should be. These changes were going to come at some point, and we'll see where Capital One decides to go in the future with this card. So my personal plan is just going to be to have my wife continue holding this card. I'll continue to be an additional card holder with no lounge access, but I can still earn 2x miles per dollar on everything. Maybe at some point, Capital One will eventually approve me for the Venture X. I'll try to be patient. Maybe at some point they will change their processes. I mean, they're merging with Discover, so maybe that'll change their underwriting in some way. Who knows? We'll see. But let me know your thoughts, because I'm really curious what you think about these changes. Are you mad? Are you happy there's going to be no more overcrowding? Let me know in the comment section down below. But as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.